Hello, Mordimers here and welcome to another game from Tata Steel Chess Tournament 2020, and we have round 6, and today I would like to cover the best game of that round. And as white is playing Daniil Dubov, and his ranking is 2683. He's a grandmaster from Russia, and I cover one of the games lost by Dubov before, because he was at that time only the background for the winner, but this time the game is much more interesting, and if you are interested in the last game, check the link over there, click that, and then you can watch that other video as well. And as black we have Vladislav Artemev. So the game of Vladislav I covered just yesterday, and also you can click over there and just if you are interested to see how Artemev managed to defend against attack of Jan Krzysztof Duda, then of course go and watch that video. Artemev play as black, and his ranking is 2731 points. So let's jump on the board and see what happened in the game. We have e4 by Dubov and c6 by Artemev, and here important information that Artemev already played Caro-Cann Defense in this tournament against Alireeza Firouzja. And Alireeza is the best player of from Iran, and he's an Iranian prodigy. Really great last season and really great this tournament. He has incredible score. He's on lead in this tournament, so he managed to win with Artemev in Caro-Cann Defense. So Dubov definitely checked that game, and he played d4, which is of course main line. We have d5, and Artemev didn't try to manage how to invent the wheel again. He played e5, the same line what Alireeza played. So this is advanced variation, and we have bishop on f5. So standard move, bringing the light square bishop out of this pawn structure, which creates some kind of fortress in the future. We have h4, so Tal variation on the board, and h5 approach by Artemev. Now we have c4, e6, pretty standard, knight c3, and now Artemev deviates from the game from Alireeza, and he play bishop on e7 before he play knight on e7. With the plan of moving the knight on f5, because in this type of structures this f5 square is the best square for the knight. But bishop e7 in that game, attacking twice the h4 pawn, and we have c takes on d5 by Dubov. C takes on d5 and bishop on d3. So if you remember the game Anand against Jeffrey Xiong, that was the French defense, but the structure was pretty similar, and Xiong tried to exchange this light square bishop for the good light square bishop of white, and he had to go b6, move the bishop on a6, then move the knight on a6 and move the knight back, and then bring him to the game. So that was like 5 moves, but in this position b on d3 is played, and after queen on d3 everything is achieved. So it seems like Caro-Kann is solving the main of the problems of French defense. At least in this case it can be shown like really how it works practically. And here black would have the time to take on h4, but is it good for black? Let's see. So a bishop would take on h4, but then queen comes on b5 with check and double attack on the b7 pawn. So that's the exchange of the pawns. and not really in favor of black, because now queen can't move on d7 because white would just take the bishop. So knight d7, queen b7, so take the knight, bishop back to e7, and now let's see the situation. First of all, black usually in French of Caro-Kann has the situation like they have counterplay on the queen side, but what black can find on the queen side, if it's you know, occupied by white queen, and really easy play for the white. So that's not the case. And also this rook is, you know, on the semi-open file, so black king actually would be in the big troubles. That's why taking the pawn on h4 is not an option for on the professional player. Knight c6 was played instead, of course, and knight f3, this time protecting because there is no queen on b5 check option for white. We have knight on h6, so bringing the knight to f5, very powerful square for black, and it's always good outpost for the knight. But Dubov now just take that knight and didn't give a chance to Artemev to actually develop that knight. We have rook on h6, and we have rook on c1, getting to the open c file. King f8, we have g3, and here in this situation we have g6, and look at that position. If you remember, again, I'm saying that if you remember Anand and Sean game, that the situation is pretty similar. So white can prepare some attack maybe on the king side in similar fashion. The only difference is that there is no white pawn on c3, so the pawn can't be moved on the c4 and attack the d5, so that's the difference. So white has to find another solution for that and get attack on c4 some different way. We have castle by Dubov and king g7, kind of artificial castle by Artemev. Knight on a4, so planning to move the knight on active square c5, and now we have rook on h8, so definitely this rook was very bad piece here, so it has to be moved somewhere on probably c file. And here we have knight on c5, and here is the decision of Artemev, which probably cost him a game, or at least make the game very difficult, because as you see, black has problems with the dark squares, and they are very weak here. And all of these weaknesses can be easily exploited, for example, by the queen, but also the knight could attack here, bringing the queen here. So this bishop is very important there. But somehow Artemev decided to exchange this knight by this bishop. Other solution for him could be probably queen on b6 with the plan of bringing the rooks on c file and just playing here, and whenever white would try to play on g5, then maybe exchange here, and probably that would be easier for black to achieve something, because this knight couldn't just, you know, go and explore. I mean, it could, but it would take him so much time to get to g5 from this queen side. But as I said, Artemev just took this this knight, and rook takes on c5 as well. We have queen d7, so connecting the rooks, and rook f on c1. So Dubov already is the king on the C file, on open C file. Very important, the most important file during that game. We have rook h on C8, and here we have queen on C3, and now this is like quite powerful battery. Look at this. This battery is just awesome. Let's make one more color here to just see. These are triple battery, you know, on the C file, and as I told you, C3 pawn and C4 moves not needed at this moment, because this powerful battery just you know, paralyze the black position almost entirely. And what black actually can play here, it looks like the position is very unpleasant, but look like knight on e7 would be the answer. Not really great move, but there is probably nothing better. Rook c7 would be played, definitely, and after rook c7 and queen c7, black could answer with rook on d8, and now this position is quite consolidated. And after, for example, b4, knight c6 would be played, and forcing exchanging the queens. So queens would be exchanged, b5, knight e7, and then knight can go for, you know, the paradise square on f5. And f5, it's so good that, you know, it's keeping the pressure on d4. Very good square for this knight. Then black would just have to find a way to find some counterplay. Maybe bringing the, sorry about that, bringing the king to the d file, and rook on c file, you know, exchanging the rooks, or getting the control on c file, and black probably could handle that game. But instead of that, a5 was played. A5, the idea was to prevent b4, because b4 definitely was coming, and that would be much more difficult for black, because white would have advanced pawn on b5. So but probably it would be with the similar fashion. We have a3, so preparing still this b4, and then we have a4, so locking b pawn at this moment. And here Dubov thought for some time what's his plan, what he want to play here, and he came with knight on e1. And I just guess, I'm not sure, but I just guess it could be waiting move, but it also could be move like with plan of playing d3, b4, and attacking on c6. But is that possible? What would happen if this plan is executed? So queen e7, and let's see what would happen. Dubov didn't play that move, but knight d3, queen d7, waiting, knight b4, and now knight on e7. So very similar situation, but now rook on c7 would come with queen on c7, exchanging the queens, bringing the rook on c7, and now knight on f5. Again, this is the really great outpost for the knight, but look what's the difference. Now white has to decide. So one option is to defend actually d4, and this knight would be very, very passive for probably quite long. Or if want to play more actively, then white would have to exchange this pawn for this pawn, and actually black would have the passed pawn, and position would be quite sharp, probably drawish, but a lot of gameplay. So that's definitely not the good plan for Dubov. So he decided to go back with knight to f3. We have queen d7, so another waiting move, and king g2, bringing the king closer waiting move, but improving also the position. And now we have rook on c7, so bringing defender to f7, because f7 can become the target relatively easy. For example, knight can attack from g5, queen could come on f4, the rook could come on f3, and that would be disaster actually for black. So black decide to play some counter defense on c7. We have queen on c2, so relocating the queen, and now we have queen on d8. Queen on d8 is probably waiting move. Maybe it would have some approach for h8 and maybe supporting attacks on this king side, because the attack will definitely come. g4 is coming in the future, knight on g5 is coming. That's gonna be hot here, so better probably Artemev thought that it's better to bring the queen on to be ready there. We have queen on d1, so moving from the c file already. We have rook on d7, so black also giving up the open c file, but at least the knight could be moved somewhere, and maybe improve the position, maybe even could come to knight to f5. We have knight on g5 right now, and here what would happen if knight e7 is played? So this plan probably is too late already, because after g4, hg4 and queen on g4, knight f5, h5 would be played, and black position would be crushed. Really nothing to find here. Queen h5, h6 here attack, very strong attacks here. Not sure what to play. Rook h1 then would come, and yeah, that's all. Yeah, that's just totally losing. So knight e7 in this position would not be correct, but probably queen b6 would be the last chance for Artemev to have some drawing chances. For example, queen f3, so bringing the queen to attack. King g8, so not giving the opportunity to come on f6 with check. Rook from first rank to the c2, then this attack on b2 is not possible, so the b pawn is defended. Rook a5 and exchanging the rooks on a5. g4, now the same attack would be handled this way, queen g4, and now queen b5. And probably now black is still in a very bad position. White definitely stand better, but black would have some counterplay here. For example, they could attack the pawn on d4, and also after this move would go to f5 and trying to exchange the queens and bringing some defender. Probably that was the last chance. However, rook a6 was played. And here we have g4 by Dubov, queen h8, so bringing the defender, because it's starting to being hot here, if I can say that. Queen f3, so creating multiple attacks. First, the pressure is on h5, but also the pressure is on f6, and also the pressure is on f7. So it's very difficult for black to defend all the spots, and sometimes some tactics are also possible. And here black should play probably rook on a8, but actually after moving the rook from 5th rank to the 3rd rank, that would be very difficult from to do something about this attack, and very powerful attack, very difficult to defend. So Artemev actually know that Dubov is excellent in attacking. He's very, you know, the player who has a lot of tactics in his mind, and very experienced in attacks. So he didn't want to wait for execution, so he in this position play rook on b6, so trying to make some attacking opportunities, maybe on the third rank to the queen, but also maybe trying to block this rook of coming, but rook could be just exchanged, so it wouldn't change too much. However, there are also the opportunities to take on d4 and try to complicate somehow the game. Maybe not now because of the rooks on the 8 ranks, but maybe later after the rooks are exchanged. Who knows? That's the big mark question. What was in Artemev's mind, but this actually led Dubov to have an opportunity to find very brilliant tactics. So feel free to pause the video and find the absolutely winning move for Daniil Dubov while I enjoy my cup of tea. So Dubov move was g take on h5, and actually that was not the best move in that position. Interestingly, rook on a5 was considered to be the best, and now of course if knight takes on e5, then is queen f6 first, king g8, and now rook can go on the 8th rank with check, rook d8, and rook on d8 checkmate. So pretty impressive, because the knight covers the h7 and g7 is covered by the queen. So pretty impressive, but of course the rook don't need to be taken. Queen d8 can be played also, and then we would have rook on a4, and after rook on a4 still we have couple of possibilities for black, but h on g4 gonna be met with queen on g4, and after knight e7, let's say, bringing the knight to favorite f5 square, h5 would be played, queen e8, and rook on h1, and that's gonna be just devastating, and everything, almost everything is winning for white. So very strong attack. And also rook on b2, trying to, you know, find some attacking chances, also would not work, because g pawn can takes on h5, and and after rook d2, trying to create some attacking chances, rook a8 would be played. So watch how brilliant move. That's really fancy. And can you see why this is a great move? Queen controls the key square on f6, but there is not much to play in this position. So queen on a8, and then queen f6 with check, king f8, h6, so the mate is coming and nothing can be done. Queen d8 trying to exchange, but actually queen g7, king e8, queen g8, queen e7, and checkmate on f7. So that would be a pretty impressive way of winning the game. Yeah. So rook a5 was the move we were looking for. So if you found that move, congratulations, you are a much better tactician than Daniil Dubov. However, Daniil Dubov move is also quite strong. G takes on h5, And last chance, not for winning, but prolong the, the lost game, would be g takes on h5. And this move would be met with the same, of course, approach, with all the same tactics, but now queen h6 would be played. So actually queen can defend f6 square. So white would just have to play rook a4 and just try to grind the way to the victory, which of course it's not difficult now, but it's still quite a lot of playing here. But instead queen takes on h5 by Artemev, and of course queen f6, because f6 is not controlled now by any piece of black. So this is gonna be king g8, rook a5, and now everything works very well. Queen g4, that's what we had in the game. King f1, and there is nothing here. Actually, if rook on a6, that's the only probably blocking move. Rook a6, and after taking rook on h6, black losing the knight on c6. So that's not definitely not the way. Black would try to have some perpetual, but it doesn't really work, because queen d1, king g2, queen g4 with check, king h2, queen h4 with check, knight h3, so blocking the check, and now black doesn't have any useful check, so would have to just exchange the queens, and of course with the extra piece, that's easy win for white. So that's why knight on d8 was played, and after rook a8, actually Vladimir Artemev just resigned. And he resigned because he actually can't defend this double attack. Whatever he play, queen f5 trying to exchange, then of course rook takes on d8, and after exchanging king g7 would be played, rook c8, and there is nothing to do against this checkmate on h8. Of course queen d3, king g1, it prolongs for a bit, but after moving to h2 there is nothing more to do, and checkmate is coming in just next move, so f6, and that's a checkmate. Of course everything is protected here. So yeah, that's why in this position rook a8, Vladislav Artemev just resigned. So yeah, I hope you like that video. If yes, just push the like button, and if don't like, just push unlike, and definitely leave some comments. I would like to hear from you, and thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.